And yeah, with all that put together, I made. Welcome back, guys. In this video, I'm going to break down my entire venture of me selling my SAT notes. I'm basically going to break it down in terms of how this idea even came about. Then I'm going to go over the notes themselves. And then I'm going to talk about how much I really made. And hopefully if you guys have any type of knack of wanting to start a business or even just trying to make some extra side money, this video can come in handy. You can use some of the tips that I will share in the video. So now for those of you who are new to this channel or just don't know period, I do have my personal SAT notes. And if you see my past videos, I always have a note in my description saying if you guys are interested in buying my $15 SAT notes, hit me up at this email. And these notes are basically notes that I developed when I was studying for the SAT, and they helped me get a very high score on the SAT, and I'll get more to that later in the video. But now, how exactly did this whole thing come about? Especially since I thought of this during the height of a pandemic. I was studying for my CMSC 250 exam, and with this class, it was literally all proofs, and I hate proofs. And as I was studying, I was developing this note guide that I would constantly review days leading up to the exam. And I had done this for a lot of classes ever since high school. Any major exam that was coming up, whether it be a final or AP exam, the SAT, I would always develop a note guide as I study so that when the exam's coming close, I'll just review all the notes I've compiled. And it serves as not only a refresher, but a review guide in its own right. So when I was pushing out SAT content for YouTube, which was primarily like the beginning phase of my YouTube channel, I realized that, hey, these notes that I used to study for the SAT when I was in high school, maybe I could touch them up a little bit and actually give them to my audience. And mind you, I had developed 15 pages of notes, so these notes were like pretty compact. And I can honestly say this method of developing notes, and these notes in general, were honestly the cornerstone of me getting a 1540 on my SAT, a 4.0 in college, which I currently still am, and it's probably going to go down no matter what. And for anyone interested in business or helping society in general, a product or service that helps you can help others. You always want to keep that in mind. So then I recreated my SAT notes, brushed up the handwriting, I scanned them, and then I created a redistributable PDF. That word always gets me.
Got my Holly Bibble.
And this PDF I would start giving to anyone who paid for my notes. So that's when I did a common business tactic that everyone always tells you to, and that is test out your audience. And make sure these notes were even like sellable and people actually buy these notes. I simply made a community post to my audience asking whether they would be interested in purchasing my personal notes that was like 16 pages of pure SAT math content. And the feedback I got was very positive to the point where I was like, wow, I did not realize so many people would be interested in a venture such as this. And this is a good tip for anyone trying to start a business or a venture. Make sure there's an audience for it, because if there isn't, no one's gonna buy it. And then all that time you spent, like for me it was 3 hours of just writing down stuff, it's gonna go to waste. But after receiving that positive feedback on March 22nd, 2020, I created my Google account just for selling notes and handling emails regarding them. And this is where one of the hardest parts about selling anything comes in, that is picking the proper price point. Now for any product to be successful, you want to pick a price that is not overvalued to the fact where customers will be like, this guy's charging way too much for these notes. At the same time, you don't want them to be underpriced, because if they're underpriced, at that point you're just going to get sad and feel like you're not charging enough and that you're not getting the most for all the time that you put in. And this is where market research usually comes in. This is why companies spend so much for R&D, which is research and development, because they want to know exactly what the competitors are doing, what's the common price point for whatever product they're selling within the market. But for my product in particular, it was kind of weird because no one else was really selling SAT notes or notes in general that other people could use to like a wide audience. I know like in colleges you always hear about your friends selling notes, your friends selling your textbooks, but no one with some type of like broad audience such as myself was doing this. And so I was like, well, I guess I can make a monopoly some way. So then I was like, well, this is a market that's not been really touched. Let me touch it and let's see how it goes. So then after asking a couple of my friends how much they would pay for SAT notes, I arrived at the price point of $15. And this is where it gets a little dicey, announcing the price to your audience. When I announced the notes price to my audience, I'd say about 20 people instantly bought the notes within like a 30-minute time frame. And within that same time frame, I think 15 people called me money hungry, a scammer, a person who's only doing it for the money, and a bunch of other mean things, including a piece of poop. And then I remember I thought to myself, I was like, dang, am I really scamming these people? Am I really a scammer? Because after all these comments, like even if you have really thick skin, like sometimes you start thinking about yourself, sometimes you start doubting yourself. So I called my business mentor and he told me that whenever you're selling something online, whether it be a product or a course, a lot of people will come at you and call you like, you know, a scammer or whatever, just because people want things to be free, and that's just human nature. And when you're charging a price for such an in-demand like service and people aren't happy about it, then they're gonna call you that stuff. But you just have to look at it in a broad view and make sure more people are happy versus sad about whatever you're selling. And this was a case for me. More people were happy than sad. So then I basically started going hand with advertising, and I started advertising my notes via videos on YouTube or community posts. I have like simple pop-ups for within my videos that will, you know, talk about the notes. And there was a point where I started getting 5 to 10 orders a day, and since it was $15, that equated to like $75 to $150 a day, which was pretty cool. And the biggest plus of this entire venture was that my cost was $0. Now obviously, you know, time is a cost, and I did spend 3 hours initially developing this and making it into a PDF. But after that, the only time spent for this was me sending emails to the people who wanted the notes. So in essence, I was making $15 for every single, you know, package of notes that I sold. Sometimes PayPal would take a cut, which would kind of be annoying. But overall, I had zero cost. And for many people, they really can't say this about their product. It's like a gold mine for hustlers. And yes, while it was good that this was like a zero cost product, the best part was the fact that these notes actually helped a lot of people. These notes weren't just, you know, notes that I quickly developed trying to make a quick buck. No, these notes I developed were thorough, included all of my tricks I ever learned for the ST Math section. And I'd say about 99% of people who bought these notes that like wrote an email back, it was all positive. People loved it. They recommended to their friends, and their friends bought it. And I basically had a lot of positive feedback. And of course, there were still people who, you know, called me scammers, money hungry. But at the same time, the amount of positive feedback I was getting was like right here, and the negative feedback I was getting was right here. And the negative feedback was from people who didn't even buy the notes. So it was like, you know, your opinion kind of doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Like, buy the notes and then you see for yourself. I mean, like, my Instagram DMs were just, thank you for the notes, thank you for the notes. YouTube comments, notes are great. And it really did mean a lot, guys, because when you, like, you know, put a product out there and you get a lot of positive feedback, you start feeling good about yourself and you start feeling good about the work you've done. Eventually, I didn't advertise my notes as much, but I would always include like a disclaimer in my description talking about them, and even this video you guys can probably see for yourself. But I'd say it was around mid-October where I passed 1,000 copies of my notes sold. So that equated to a $15,000 profit, which was pretty good, you know, if you consider everything. And I know $50,000 isn't crazy, it's not like, you know, it's $1 million, but you know, I'm not from the richest family, so $15,000 was a lot. And especially for a college student, for like some colleges, you may be able to pay tuition with that much money for like 1 year. And the fact that these are just notes for an exam is kind of crazy. Like, making $15,000 just by selling your notes that you created to help you for an exam, and the fact that this is a zero cost product is just like, wow. But while this interest was spiking up and the number of copies sold was spiking up, I got an email that led to an epiphany. And that was this one girl wrote me that, hey, your notes are great, you know, great material. The only thing I would recommend to make them a little better is just a little bit neater handwriting. And if you guys haven't seen my ST video that got like 1 million views, where I wrote an 8, apparently in a weird way, and I got called out by a lot of comments on the way I wrote my 8. People were saying I was like an alien, or like I didn't know how to write. And I guess my handwriting isn't the neatest. I mean, it's legible, but it's probably not the neatest. So then I realized that, you know what? I can take this up a notch further, because she had a point. You know, you have to innovate and adapt your service or product to the changing market. Like, that's how businesses, you know, either thrive in the future or they just fall. Because if you can't adapt for whatever product or service you're selling, then you're just not going to be able to compete with your competitors or just keep your audience's interest as much as you possibly could. So this is where I teamed up with my editor, and we actually remastered the entire handwritten notes, wrote them again digitally, adding colors and like nice bold print, underline print to make it stand out more, make it much more neat. And I even added 8 more pages of content, so it went from 16 pages to 25 pages. This is all digital. So this basically solved the problem that the girl mentioned. And of course, I couldn't sell this at the same price as my handwritten notes. So I marked my digital notes, or what I call my remastered notes, at $20 per, you know, package. And right now I'm currently selling both versions. And now to the part where you all have been waiting for, how much did I make selling my notes? Well, I can't tell you the exact number, but I can give you a pretty close estimate. From March 22nd, 2020 to now, which is like February 16th, 2021, I made a little over $20,000 through this entire venture. Again, it's not millions or anything, but considering everything, like what this product is, where it came from, how long it's been out, I think it's been doing pretty well for itself. And this goes to show, if you have a business idea, no matter how small you think it is, Just test it out. See if there's an audience for it. And if there is, sell it to the audience. And you never know. If that audience likes it a lot, they'll tell other people. And next thing you know, your product or idea that you thought was small is now like the biggest thing ever. Because to be honest, you never know where a small idea can take you in life. So if you want to check out my notes, then check the description. And if you have been sticking to the end, I want you to comment, stick to the end in the comment section below. Because if you do, the first 100 comments that have this hashtag, stick to the end, will be entered in my giveaway for my digital notes and my handwritten notes. And if you're just a business person who doesn't need SAT notes, then I'll just probably give you a $15 gift card or something. Or you can give it to your friend or son who does need it. But I hope you guys learned a lot and you're motivated to pursue your own ventures. And maybe this video can act as a guide, but use these tips and I can assure you guys that you guys may realize that your small ideas may bring you a lot of money, a lot of success, and may set you up for new opportunities that you didn't even know existed. So thank you guys for watching. Peace.